all about polynomials and polynomial functions, and so today we're just going to take a look at adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. So some of it might be review, but if it's not, just let me know if I'm going too fast, and I'd be happy to slow down. So the first part should be review, this warm-up. And what I noticed with Foster when he did this, he remembered the distributive property. So we have to say 2 times x, but we also have to say 2 times 5. Good job. Okay, another distributive property with a negative 4. So we would get negative 4x squared plus 20x minus 4. So just watch that negative sign. And then 3x times 2x, we have to do the 3 times 2 for 6. And then x times x is x squared. Very good job. So 6x squared. And then if we have a times a to the 3 times a to the 3, we would end up with a to the 7 because we're adding our exponents. And if we don't see an exponent, we want to kind of remember this means that there's a 1 there. And then if we have 7m squared minus 12m squared, we get a negative 5m squared. Very good. Okay, so on the next slide, what we're going to do is when we're adding polynomials, in this case, we have a trinomial plus another trinomial, which is 3 terms plus another 3 terms. The parentheses are just kind of separating it out, but all you're doing is collecting like terms. So in addition, you can kind of ignore the parentheses. You just put whatever as like terms together. So I can add my 5x squared with my negative 3x squared and get 2x squared. And then I have x minus 6x, which would be what? Negative 5x. And then last but not least, the negative 7 with the negative 1 would be negative 8. Okay, so for this one, they don't have to have the exact same amount of terms. We just put the ones together that can go together. So this is just an x to the 4th, and we have 2x to the 4th, which is what? 3x to the 4th. Good. So if there's no number in front, we just want to remember again, it's almost like there's no number there. Now, one thing to keep in mind is we do want to put our answers in standard form, which means our exponents are going in descending order. And so the next thing I'm just going to write down is plus 2x to the 3rd because there's nothing to add to it from this one. And then the last thing to do is 8 plus negative 9, which is good. Okay, now with the subtraction, it's just like the addition, but one thing I want you to be real careful of is remembering that we're subtracting each term. And so some people kind of forget, like I'll do 3x cubed minus 5x cubed, but then forget that it's 8x squared minus a negative 8x squared. So one option for this for subtracting is we could change this to addition. And if I change that to addition, what do I have to do to everything else? Take it to the opposite. So negative for the first one, this one becomes a positive and then a negative. And then it's just a nice easy addition question. The other thing to do, just to keep in mind, is I could line up my question if I don't want to kind of just go back and forth like a linear. So I'm adding a negative 5x cubed, I'm adding an x squared here, and I'm adding a negative 17. You don't have to do this, but some people like to line their things up better. They're like terms, and so you can do that. So this would be negative 2x cubed plus 9x squared. There's nothing to add to the negative x, so I'll just bring it down. And then negative 5 plus negative 17 would be negative 22. So remember, when you're adding 2 negatives, you're getting more. Questions about that? Okay, why don't you guys go ahead and try this next one? Really?
Yeah, it says x squared plus x squared minus 8.
I've got something a little bit different.
Plus x squared minus 13.
So one thing we want to keep in mind is I take the opposite of everything. So 9x to the 4th plus negative 3x to the 4th. And then this negative x cubed plus a 12x cubed would cancel those out. And then I don't have anything to add to the x squared, so I just go ahead and bring it down. And I don't have anything to bring to the x, so I go ahead and bring it down. And then nothing to add to the negative 8, so I go ahead and bring it down. And then I can't combine these together because they don't have the exact same exponent. Does that make sense? Whoops. Okay, so now with multiplying polynomials, we want to remember, and I should have done this in the warm-up, that we have to FOIL things out. So if I had like x plus 2 times x minus 1, we would do x squared minus x plus 2x minus 2 to get x squared plus x minus 2. The other way we kind of showed it, probably just real briefly, is we can multiply things like this to help organize our thinking and get the same exact answer. Now, the one thing that I really like about this method, where we get the same exact answer, is when they get a little bit more complicated like this. Because what you have to remember is that the 2x has to be multiplied to everything, and the 1 has to be multiplied to everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate two methods, and you just pick which one that you want. You can watch both methods and then write one down, or you can just kind of try it on your own. The first is kind of like a FOIL, where I'm going to multiply this times this times this. And so I would get 8x cubed, bless you, plus 2x squared minus 10x. And now I need to multiply the 1 to everything. And what I'm going to do when I multiply that out is I'm going to put those terms underneath whatever they match, just to kind of keep my work a little more organized. So I get 4x squared plus x minus 5. So then when I add those together, I get 8x cubed plus 6x squared minus 9x minus 5. So that's one method. And again, with this one, you don't even have to line it up. You can just do one long line and then collect like terms. Now the next method I'll demonstrate on this one, instead of doing the arrows, I'm going to set up, instead of a square, it's going to look more like a rectangle. So I'll put my x plus 2 here, and then my 5x squared plus 3x minus 1. It's an x, that's not coming out very good. And so I would get 5x cubed, 3x squared, minus x, 10x squared, 6x minus 2. And then I just kind of want to check along my diagonals if I have like terms, because I can combine those together. So I get 5x cubed plus 13x squared plus 5x minus 2. So how many people like the first method? Just kind of arrows out, okay? Anybody into the rectangle method? Okay, good. Yeah, and again, this is just, it just is how your brain works. For me personally, I really like this method because I make less mistakes with this. But I'm a real visual person that likes everything kind of chunked together. Plus, I really like Venn diagrams when I did them in science class. So kind of questions about either of these? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How did you get the final answer for them?
Okay, now these ones are just questions that are kind of not really special cases, but just certain things to think about. And so when you have three things that you're multiplying together, you have to take them step by step. So I'll multiply these two together first, and then that answer times this. Okay, to kind of organize that. So we'll do x squared minus x minus 2x plus 2. So I get x squared minus 3x plus 2. And then that times x plus 3. So why don't you guys go ahead and finish that question and do the second one. And then I just want to point out with the third one, when I have 5a plus 2, a common mistake with this is some people will tell me that I would do 5a squared plus 2 squared. Why is that not okay? I've got to FOIL it out. When I have a binomial that's being squared, it means I'm doing 5a plus 2 times 5a plus 2. I can't distribute this squared across an addition sign. Okay, so this is incorrect. So go ahead and finish this question and do this one, and then we'll compare answers. Okay, what did you guys get for finishing this one? Anthony?
X cubed minus 7x plus 6.
Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. And then what happens with this one? Good, because these are identical, but one's a minus and one's a plus, we know that that middle term's going to cancel out. So what'd you get for the whole thing? Not plus 4, but minus 4. Good job. All right, and now this one, they're identical, but they don't have opposite signs, so the middle term's not going to cancel. So what's this one? Right?
25a squared plus 28.
Plus, what was that?
28.
28 plus 4. questions about that? Okay, so we're gonna do a quick in-class assignment with this, and then you guys will be good to go. So page 341 to 344, numbers 13 through 65, but you're doing every other odd. So you get to skip an odd in between. And then you'll see quiz 1 on page 344, number 1 through 18 and 27. That's just a quick review over what we've been doing, just to make sure that you're all set if we did it when we have a quiz like after, right? But we will review before you guys have a quiz.